Well, hello, and of course, I've managed to get myself totally in the wrong place. There we go. As I explained, I'm waiting, and there's a very small number. I'm waiting to see if I get a telephone call from my doctor, which is supposed to arrive between now and 10:30. So we'll do a little a bit of a, a mix and match. I've just had a rant about politicians and so on and so forth, but I thought that first of all, there was a journalist called Pierre Danino, who was a Frenchman, and he was a columnist who wrote for Le Figaro in Paris. And he created a fictitious Englishman, the Rostbif, called Major Thompson. And he described Major Thompson very carefully, how he dressed with his bowler hat, his moustache, his briefcase with a penny in it for the public loo, and generally speaking, painted a very amusing picture, a friendly one, I may say, of the typical Englishman, as seen by the French. And I picked up on this a little while ago, and I decided that perhaps it was enough for us to see what we were like ourselves. And this is what I came up with. So forgive me if you don't like it, but here we go. We should do this, and then we should do that.
The Englishman. Don't we? We still have very quaint customs. I suppose that outside people see them as quaint, we see them as quite serious to the way that our society should operate. Hugh Grant, when he made the film Love Actually, gave a little speech at a press conference about what England was. I only paraphrase it, but he says something like, "We're only a small country, but we're a great country. The country of Shakespeare, of Harry Potter, of Churchill, of 007, and a whole host of other people, including David Beckham's right foot, David Beckham's left foot, come to that. And that's the sort of way, I suppose, that we see ourselves, is not in any power structure, but as being potty people from a potty little country, which punches well above its weight. First of all, of course, is the oddity is that we still have what we call English gentlemen. And if you want to define what an English gentleman is, for instance, no English gentleman will ever be seen dead with a tie that matches his kerchief at the top of his pocket. They shouldn't look the same. And yet you will find in the stores that they sell packages of ties and kerchiefs that are exactly the same colour. Well, you're not an English gentleman if you're wearing a tie that matches your bougainvillea. In the gentlemen's clubs, it's rather amusing because also, when it comes to sartorial splendour, that the most wonderful suits, pinstripe, blue stripe, any stripe, are worn. But the gentleman does not wear a pair of socks that matches. The higher you are, normally it's red socks. A little more, and I have a challenge with a peer of the realm to see who can outdo each other with socks that look something like this. Striped socks. So far, I'm beating him. I've got better stripes than he has. But that's the way that the Englishman will dress, and we'll be very careful about it. There are other oddities. I mentioned the gentlemen's clubs. The other evening, sitting in the cocktail bar, two people who were new or strangers shook hands, and suddenly there was a frozen silence. You do not shake hands in the cocktail bar of the club. And by the same token, in the evening, you don't come in if you're not in a suit. Oh, my goodness me, aren't we actually snobs? No, we're not. We just enjoy all these peculiarities. We enjoy reveling in them and don't think twice about them. From outside, there are a number of things which don't make sense, and I thought I might just run through one or two of these things to try and straighten you out. First of all, our form of government. It's a constitutional monarchy. So we have a queen as the head of state, but she has no power. The legislation is made by the House of Commons, which is an elected chamber. But it has to send any of its deliberations to the House of Lords, which is made up of peers, lords of the realm. And they can actually say to any legislation, no, no, no. When they've said no the third time, it makes no difference. It goes back to the House of Commons, which then votes on it, and if government's got a large enough majority, it becomes law. No, it doesn't. It's got to go to the Queen, who has no power. But unless she says okay, given, as it's called, royal assent, it doesn't become law. No power, no legislation, unless she says that it's okay, that's fine. And talking of the Queen, of course, Buckingham Palace is where she resides normally, and outside there are guards in wonderful red tunics, marching up and down, stamping their feet, day in, day out, night in, night out, guarding the royal presence. And on their heads are black hats, known as bear skins. Although they're synthetic nowadays, they were made of the skins from bears in the past. Bear skins. But the Queen sent a memo to one of her aides the other day in which she mentioned that she would like some more bear skins ordered. He put it through the computer, and dear old algorithms or logarithms, whatever rhythms they are, sent it back as saying it was unacceptable because it was obscene. The Queen, bear skins, obscene. And those old logarithms certainly get involved in our daily life. In my hometown of Lewis, we have a war memorial that was cast and shaped in 1920. It's a beautiful piece of work. It has around the base 4 maidens, and the architect, the sculpture, designed them so that one of their breasts is barely covered. A colleague sent a piece of video showing the war memorial. It came back obscene. So there we are, bear skins, war memorials, all obscene. Would you believe it? But in Lewis, at the turn of the century, the turn of the last century, in 1910 or so, the famous sculptor Rodin sent the Kiss, his statue of intertwined figures, which is, yes, it's slightly erotic. It wouldn't turn an eye nowadays. But in 1910, it was put in a shed for a little while. And when it was brought out, a local lady took one look at it. Actually, she didn't. She looked at it for 2 or 3 hours and then decided that nobody else should be defiled, that they shouldn't be corrupted by looking at this famous Rodin statue. And so she persuaded the council to put it back into the storeroom that it had been in and keep it there for another 10 years. And famous stories of how troops during the war went into the town hall and they had the statue of Rodin in there, and that a cloth was put over so that they wouldn't be too excited by this statue. Nowadays, I think probably people pass it by without a second glance. Telephone booths. Don't we have wonderful telephone booths? Everybody comes to London to see the red telephone booths, except sometimes we painted them black. Don't ask why we painted them black, but we did. And there are plenty of these phone booths that are red left. But they don't have any phones in them because now we don't use that sort of phone. So the red telephone box stands there with no phone. And if you open the door to look where the phone used to be, the inside is plastered with Bertha invites you to visit her, or Maggie will make you happy, with email addresses. You can get hold of these unfortunate ladies who I'm sure are just welcoming tourists. But it's the way that they actually advertise it in a telephone booth is the amusing way of welcoming people to Britain from the ladies of the street or of the night. Oh dear. Aren't we actually just a strange nation? Well, we are. And I suppose that the one thing that we really don't have that much of is good trains. You get onto a train in Britain and it says it is going to Hayward Heath. Halfway there, it stops at Gatwick Airport. And all the passengers are told to get out, because for some weird reason, it is not allowed to go any further.
Unknown caller.
No reason is given. You just can't go any further. So everybody piles out and is told to catch the next train to wherever they're going to. Hayward Heath, Brighton, wherever. Except there are no trains today. You stand on the platform and you wait and you wait and you wait. There are no announcements, no nothing. The trains that go nowhere. Only we in Britain could have them. We have a lot of peculiarities, and I will, over the coming weeks, just outline some of them to you, because nonetheless, rural Britannia, we just love the way that we live.
Thank you. I'm sorry, that would have just.
And we are almost like animals in a zoo. People just stare at us, gaze at us, and we allow them to, and we stand there, and we love it. Even though we would say, we're quite normal. What's wrong with them? No, we're not. We are eccentric.
Yeah, this is the pill that I take at
the
night.
least.
Is that right?
Airline, British Airways, absolutely wonderful. I got on a flight in Budapest a while ago.
Oh, right, okay.
Plus the,
yeah, is that the pill that I take at
I
night?
thought I was on the way to London. When in fact, I was woken
I only
hear
got
the lady
5 or 6
on the
days
microphone
ago.
saying,
I've been taking
welcome
it,
to the Algarve.
and, I must say that certainly last night I
That's
got a much better night's sleep.
Yes, he said
and I
cheerfully.
actually
He got into fight the computer. Derek goes to the Algarve. Sorry you're not in London, but here you are on the south coast of Portugal, which is warm and has sangria and all sorts of other things. Thank goodness that we're eccentric. Thank goodness that the computers service are eccentric.
No more than
now
usual.
I'm
I
able
mean,
to call
I run a little
the Portuguese
media
bar
company, and
and
there's
have
always
a wonderful
anxiety
time having a drink
associated with
and
that,
lying in the sun.
but no more than I normally would
Mad
have.
dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. Toodle pip.
No. I'm sorry that I left you with a frozen image there. I got a call from my local surgery, as I think most people who watch this program know that I suffer from Parkinson's, that I am very well attended. I've got my own criticisms of the NHS, but certainly when it comes to my Parkinson's, I get pretty good service. And there is just one little bit of medication that they've given to me, and I needed to discuss it. And of course, the one thing you can't say to the doctor is, no, please, can I talk to you an hour later? Otherwise, they're off with other people because they are so busy. So I hope that you don't mind the indulgence that after my little exposition of Major Thompson, I find that Major Thompson is very amusing, and if you can get hold of the books, because they were written a long time ago, but they are a good read. And one is because we have talked about booze quite a lot on this show, and we talk sometimes about cocktails. Is that I am very aware that we need to occasionally follow up. And one of the books is Major Thompson Goes to New York. And he is introduced to the American cocktail party, which at that time in Britain was unknown. In fact, cocktails were really broadly unknown. Cocktails became very, very popular in the 1950s, 60s, 1970s. Cocktail bars sprang up all over the place. There was one very, very fine chain called Trader Vic's, which were Polynesian cocktails made of juices of the various fruits that you got from the South Pacific, plus rum. They were basically rum, and they were very, very good. And you got them mostly in Trader Vic's bars. Trader Vic's doesn't exist anymore because, like everything else, drinking cocktails and cocktail bars went out of fashion. Now they seem to be coming back. There seems to be a resurgence, a renewal in cocktails, and we hope that we can bring you a couple of programs suggesting how you might enjoy cocktails, what they are made of, are there new ones, and so on. They have colourful names like Manhattan, Old Fashioned, Molokai Mike, Scorpion, Daiquiri, and so on. So not only the name is colourful, but the drinks themselves are colourful, and it is not like just a straight gin and tonic or a whiskey and soda, but full of colour, full of flavour, and look very tempting. One that I particularly liked, the Scorpion, you could buy in a big bowl, a Polynesian bowl, clay bowl, with fertility symbols, 4 fertility symbols, and you bought it for 4 people, and it had a flower. Yes, I didn't know which flower it is, and it just escapes me the name at the moment. Is floating in the middle of it, and the idea was that each of you started off at the same time to see who could drink the most through the straw in a sort of a race. And while you did that, if you got a young lady with you, you would stroke the fertility symbol. You were looking at her across the scorpion. Gardenia, that's the flower. The flower is a gardenia, and it was not only a great drink, but it was great fun to have as well. So if you can find you find a recipe for a scorpion, do see what you can make of it, because it made drinking loads of fun. And that's what Major Thompson was introduced to in New York way back when Pierre Danino was writing his column for Le Figaro and trying to describe what Major Thompson was all about, what the Brits are all about. One of the things that we actually, I'm just yes, I'm keeping an eye on the clock because we're going in 10 minutes or so to join Mark maybe. But one of the things that you may enjoy about Major Thompson and Pierre Danino's view is that he always carried a briefcase, and in the briefcase was his sandwich for lunch, along with a penny, which in those days was what you put into the slot to get into the public toilet. And every Englishman always had the penny tucked away safely, so that if he needed to go to the loo, he was able to do so without being inconvenienced of not having the change to do so. Oh dear. And the book is full of little anecdotes like that. So thank you for tolerating this bit of nonsense for 3/4 of an hour. And we'll just take another brief brief break before we go to Mark Maybe and another look at education, and then eventually we shall have with us John Henty. So still plenty to come on. Well, before we go, hang on, we've got our friend from Ghana, Jeff Dodu. Jeff says hello, and we're glad to know that you're tuning in from time to time, Jeff. So hello to you, and we're glad that you are on. And there you are now. Most of Britain knows that you tap in and you watch our show. So we are very pleased to have you. I did have some little chats with Jeff about a year or 2 years ago when he was a young man. We talked about various career prospects for him. He's gone on to be a very successful young man, I believe. And here he is tapping in to Mirador Television all the way from Ghana. So hello, Jeff, and welcome to the show. Now, as I say, I'm going to disappear, and then we shall be back with two more people, Mark maybe, and we shall be back with John Henty as the morning progresses. So, for the moment, here we go with another toodle pip. Toodle pip.